Say welcome to the Man's Advantage.
Welcome to Man's Advantage.
It's tractor therapy. You hear about it. Nobody can bother you. You can't really hear your phone ring. You just get on here and drive and think about, you know, what God's done for us, what God provides for us, what you can provide for yourself. How do you make it grow? What can you do to make your little piece of heaven better?
Stop, Howard, is, in my opinion, it's probably one of the biggest improvements that you're going to make and have noticeable responses from on this property. And it's a huge undertaking, but you are planning on, after looking at the topography back here on the property, of creating in the center an approximately a 15-acre ag field in the middle of all this country. And it's going to take something that size, because if you tried to grow soybeans or corn on some of these small fields, they would just be quickly overwhelmed by the deer browsing pressure. So a sizable field that you can plant, talking about maybe putting some electrical control exclusion around them to keep hot fencing, basically to keep them out, and then at a certain time of the year letting them on in. But we also have a new passenger in the truck.
Yeah, so see Ed back there. So Ed had worked for the Southern company for years and years, and actually worked for the state for how long? 44 years. So Ed's our guy that can do anything down here. He can run the bulldozer, run the farmhand, run the tractor, fill our feeders, and he's the kind of guy that needed something to do. We ran across each other, and works hard for us, and but we're fixing to overwhelm him with a lot of this stuff that we're getting done. But
you ready?
Sounds good.
It's going to be hard for somebody that's always based everything off of ground level observation to fathom here. This was completely first initiated, the thought of doing what you guys want to do here was on maps. Mm-hmm. And by looking at this property on a topo map, we've identified a nice, what we would call a gentle slope ridge in here, or a nice flat area, and encompassing an entire area following that contour around on the Onyx map. We've determined it to be 15 acres or so, plus or minus. We're talking about bringing the Midwest to Alabama here. And what your property has had a shortcoming, or one of the missing components, was a centralized big attraction main food source in the middle of the property. Mm-hmm. You've got lots of little openings through the timbering of little plots and green fields here and there, but this will be, in my opinion, probably the biggest asset that you'll create.
Yeah, and one thing we've noticed in the fields that we've got now, most of them, like we said, this was the old logging company property, so they're logging decks, and they're maybe quarter to half an acre, so we've got to get them, so they're eating them to death. Mm-hmm. So you got to get, it's not that, we showed the exclusion cage, it's not that they're not growing, it's just they're not growing fast enough with our deer population. You've got more mouths than
you can feed.
You've got more mouths than we can feed. Yeah.
And so this will take care of multiple things. It's going to keep deer on your property. It's going to give them a centralized location to end up at night. They'll still be using all these little satellite plots on their way to the destination field. You'll be able to overwhelm them with more food than they can consume, with some protection. We're going to talk about electric exclusion and things like that. But when you talk about soybeans, it is an incredible draw, an incredibly high protein plant, and it's really good for your deer's body health. Yeah. Secondarily, on alternating years, we can talk about corn. If the soil will provide it, the nutrients to grow it, we can supplement it if it doesn't. But corn is king a lot of times in the fall, and it's a carbohydrate that their bodies crave and desire for energy. It's not as nutritionally beneficial, but it's as highly attractive, and you talk about a great hunting draw. So But to stand here and look at this, all you see is flat woods, and you have to look at the big picture from overhead and look at the topography. But again, to recap what you mentioned, you're going to have timber company come in here and what you would call a clear cut or a thinning of your pines, and take all that marketable timber, let them haul it out of here and make use of it with paper products or wood products. You guys get the check, and you're going to invest that back into paying for the big equipment to come back in and clean it all up. And Ed's going to be a part of that. And you might incorporate the additional help of another large contractor to get in here with the big equipment to, holy cow, make a 15-acre field in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Because one thing you got to think, you know, William's mother, my wife Dee Dee, she's the one that pays the bills. So if Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. so we gotta. So you, when she, all she sees is the going out. You know, she's got to have some coming in. So that's how we, you know, really and truly. That's why you need to. You have to offset that property. You know, that expense. You
can show Mom that's going to cash flow.
So it's. So it is a big part of when you're looking at doing something like that. Yeah, it's a big expense, but if you can go in and do some thinning, do some stuff, and not do it all in 1 year, because we've got road maintenance that we have to keep up, you know, and even though we got to pay for Ed, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that we need to do something. If you can, you know, get a quarter of your budget of what you spend a year in your timber harvest, you know, that's how you pay for stuff like that. Just a little bit bites at a time.
Every bit helps. We talked about using your mapping and identifying this field area by walking the contour as we track it with the map, and flagging it with surveyor's tape, so that between Ed and the other fellows, they can see the outer parameters of what we're talking about, and everything within inside those flagged areas. You can see them.
So here's, I mean, really, we are following a 250-foot topo line, and that's about as flat as we can get before it starts dropping off here, going into a creek bottom. On all sides, really.
Directions.
So
it gets pretty steep out there.
It does. So, and that's our biggest goal.
That's what we're going to flag.
So we're going to walk it, trace it with some flagging, and be able to make this actually happen. And I'll be able to have to go in, and we might be able to make it a little bit bigger than 15 acres or smaller, depending on what the topography allows us.
Right on.
So on the whole 1,225 acres, we only had about 30 acres of total food plot that was planted. And by doing this field, we added another 13 to 15 acres. We hadn't mapped it off to know the exact total yet, but that's a lot of food and a lot of stuff that we can plant. And inside this, I guess these are 10-year-old pine trees. It makes deer gonna feel like they're secluded and have a place to be a centric hub for them to stay and be happy and be contained.
About 3/4 of this field is going to have a summer food plot mix in it this year. We went ahead and planted it. We got too late to get soybeans and corn in this year, but we do have just some lab and corn and peas, a summer mix that we put in. And we got it in about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's growing. We got to do something down here. We think this was a good investment.